So it's 6:30 a.m. You roll out of bed, your feet hit the floor, and I mean, suddenly your illusion of being this resilient, adaptable, biological machine just shatters.
Oh, completely shatters.
Right. You feel less like a dynamic all-terrain vehicle and way more like a rusty tin man. Every hinge is locked up, your lower back is aching, and just walking to the bathroom is this creaky, monumental effort.
Yeah, and we largely just assume that waking up stiff like that is, well, it's just the unavoidable tax for being alive.
Exactly. We write it off.
We say, oh, it's the cost of lifting weights yesterday, or maybe sleeping in a weird position, or, just logging another year on the calendar.
But our mission in today's deep dive is to basically stop accepting that tax.
Yeah.
We're going to really look under the biological hood today.
We have some incredible material to go through.
We really do. We've got this fascinating stack of clinical notes on the microscopic physiology of joint stiffness, plus some research that, frankly, aggressively debunks the whole wear and tear myth.
Which is so needed, honestly.
And we're going to give you an elite thermal mobility toolkit that you can actually use. But there was this one sticky visual in the sources that just hooked me instantly.
Oh, I know the one you're talking about.
Yeah, it compared the fluid inside your joints first thing in the morning to, quote, honey placed in a refrigerator.
It's such a visceral image. And the thing is, it's incredibly accurate to the actual biochemistry happening while you sleep.
Really? Like
Yeah.
literal cold honey.
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, to understand why your joints feel like that, we have to look at the microscopic environment of the joint capsule itself.
Okay, set the scene for us.
So physiologically, our joints aren't just dumb hinges. They're these highly metabolic living capsules, and they're lined with something called a synovial membrane. And the entire job of this membrane is to continuously filter your blood plasma and synthesize hyaluronic acid. That's what produces synovial fluid.
And that's the lubricant, right?
Exactly. It's the biological lubricant that coats your articular cartilage. That's the incredibly smooth, white tissue on the ends of your bones that lets your skeleton just glide seamlessly.
Okay, so during the day, we're moving around, our heart is pumping.
Yeah.
And I'm guessing that synovial fluid is warm and slick.
Yep, very fluid.
So what's the trigger at night? Like, what turns it into that sluggish, refrigerated honey state?
Well, it really comes down to thermoregulation and the architecture of human sleep.
Okay.
See, to transition into deep, slow wave sleep, your brain actually requires your core body temperature to drop, usually by about 1 to 2 degrees.
Wow, that much.
Yeah, it's significant. And to achieve that drop, your hypothalamus triggers peripheral vasoconstriction.
Which means the blood vessels narrow.
Right. The vessels surrounding your extremities and your joint capsules physically clamp down. This shunts all that warm blood away from your skin and your joints, and it concentrates it deep within your core organs.
So the body's basically pulling all its resources inward. And it's leaving the outer connective tissues, like literally out in the cold.
That's exactly what's happening.
Yeah.
And without that continuous ambient warmth and robust circulation, the physical properties of your tissues change dramatically.
Like the honey in the fridge.
Yes. Synovial fluid is highly sensitive to temperature. So when it cools down, the long chains of hyaluronic acid inside the fluid actually physically tangle together.
Oh, wow. So they literally tangle up.
They do. It becomes highly viscous, thickening into that heavy, honey-like sludge. And simultaneously, the lack of warm blood flow causes the surrounding ligaments and tendons to chill. They lose all their pliability.
And I imagine a drop in blood flow also means a drop in oxygen delivery to those tissues, right?
Oh, a massive drop. That vasoconstriction severely limits the oxygen reaching the synovial membrane, which just slows down its whole metabolic rate.
Right, so it's a double whammy.
So when you wake up and you try to take that very first step, you are fighting against thickened fluid and these tightened, oxygen-deprived elastic bands.
That makes so much sense.
Yeah, the stiffness isn't just a vague sensation. It's the profound physical reality of your tissues at that exact moment. You're fighting severe mechanical resistance.
Okay, so when I feel that mechanical resistance, say, my knee aches and feels incredibly tight first thing in the morning.
Right.
The mainstream dogma I've heard my entire life is that this is wear and tear.
Oh, absolutely. Everyone says that.
Right. The logic is that my joints are degrading, so I should stay perfectly still, rest it, and just kind of wait for the pain to pass.
Yes, but the sources we're looking at today dismantle that idea entirely.
They really do. It blew my mind.
They tear the wear and tear narrative down to the studs. I mean, it is perhaps the most pervasive and honestly damaging misunderstanding in modern physical therapy.
Because we treat our bodies like car parts, right?
Exactly. We map this idea of mechanical erosion onto our biology. We treat our joints like the brake pads on a car. We assume that, avoiding movement preserves the tissue.
Right, like if I don't use the brakes, they won't wear out.
But cartilage is not a brake pad.
Wait, so if my instinct is to stay completely still to protect that aching knee, am I actually starving it? Because, the pain is actively telling my brain to freeze and just avoid the load.
You are quite literally starving it, yes.
That is wild.
It is, because cartilage is unique in human biology. It's a vascular.
Meaning no blood vessels.
Right. No veins or arteries running through it at all. It does not have a direct pipeline to receive nutrients or to carry away cellular waste.
So how does the tissue even stay alive if it has no blood supply?
It relies on this really cool sponge mechanism, and it's driven entirely by mechanical loading.
Okay, walk me through that.
Think of a thick, dense kitchen sponge.
Right.
And it's soaking in a bowl of dirty water.
Got it.
To get that dirty water out, you have to physically compress the sponge, squeeze it. Well, inside your joints, mechanical pressure acts as that compression.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, when you stand up and you put weight on a joint, that physical load deforms the cartilage matrix. It physically squeezes catabolic waste products and carbon dioxide straight out of the tissue.
Okay, and then when I take the weight off, like when I lift my leg, the sponge expands back out.
Exactly. And that expansion creates an osmotic vacuum. The negative pressure physically pulls fresh, nutrient-dense, highly oxygenated synovial fluid deep into the cartilage matrix.
Wow.
So the loading and unloading of the joint is literally the only feeding mechanism that tissue has.
Which completely flips the script.
Yeah.
It means movement isn't what wears the joint down. Movement is the pump that feeds it.
Bingo. The mechanical load dictates the flow of nutrients. So when you wake up with stiff joints and you decide to just remain perfectly still to, quote unquote, protect them,
You're actually halting the only delivery system your cartilage has.
you are. Immobilization does not heal the joint. It actually exacerbates the thickening of the fluid and the tightening of those fascial tissues.
Because the waste is just sitting there.
Right. The cellular waste just stagnates, and that creates a more acidic, inflammatory environment.
Yikes. So what is the actual solution then?
The true solution to morning stiffness is strategically manipulating your vascular system with heat, and then following that with calculated movement to engage that sponge pump.
Conceptually, that shifts the entire paradigm for me. But we just established that first thing in the morning, the synovial fluid is acting like cold, thick honey.
Right.
So we can't just violently start jumping around to engage the sponge pump.
Right.
That sounds like a recipe for an injury.
Oh, definitely. You'd risk a lot of damage.
So how do we safely initiate movement when the joint is in that really rigid, cold state?
To bridge that gap, we need to look at how we treat high-performance machinery. Let's use an analogy from the sources.
Okay, here.
Visualize an ultra-luxury sports car. It's a marvel of engineering, but it's parked outside overnight in freezing, below zero temperatures.
Sounds expensive.
Very. In this scenario, your joint is the high-performance engine of that car. The cartilage on the ends of your bones represents the complex internal gears. And that vital synovial fluid is the premium motor oil, which is designed to coat those gears so they glide seamlessly.
But sitting in the freezing cold all night turns that premium slick oil into a heavy, viscous sludge.
Exactly. Now, if you jump into that freezing car, immediately turn the key and just slam your foot on the accelerator.
A sludge won't be able to coat the gears fast enough.
Right. You're going to get harsh friction, metal grinding on metal, and eventually catastrophic internal damage because the environment simply wasn't prepped for the mechanical demand.
So how do mechanics solve this? I mean, with an engine block heater.
Yeah.
Yes.
An engine block heater.
It's a device that gently warms the entire engine and the oil before you even attempt to turn the key. So the ambient heat physically melts the oil back from a sludge into that slick, highly lubricating state.
And so when you finally shift into gear, it's totally frictionless.
Okay, so bring this back to our mornings. Jumping straight out of bed, ignoring the stiffness, and just rushing down the stairs to start your day.
Is the biological equivalent of slamming the gas pedal on cold sludge?
Wow.
Yeah, you're demanding high-velocity output from gears that are completely dry. You have to melt the resistance before you demand performance.
So we need an engine block heater for our bodies.
Exactly. Heat therapy exposure serves as the engine block heater for your biological chassis. It expands the blood vessels, floods the area with warm nutrients, and restores elasticity to the tendons before you ever put them under a heavy compressive load.
Okay, let's get into the practical stuff then. Because the sources actually provided 3 highly specific zero-cost thermal protocols to help you build this biological engine block heater.
They did, yeah.
The first one is called Awaking Localized Thermal Flush.
Right.
So the protocol dictates that while you're still lying in bed, you take a thick towel soaked in very warm water, wring it out, and wrap it directly around your primary stiff joint.
Say your knees or your lower lumbar spine.
Yeah, and you just leave it there for 5 to 7 minutes.
And what's happening there is the heat from the towel actually penetrates the dermal layers and interacts with the thermoreceptors in your skin. Those receptors trigger reflex vasodilation. They prompt the release of nitric oxide, which relaxes the smooth muscle walls of the blood vessels wrapped around that specific joint capsule.
Meaning the vessels open up.
They expand dramatically, and that forcefully draws warmed, oxygen-rich blood right into those connective tissues.
You're literally warming up the oil.
Exactly. The ambient heat transfers deeply into the joint capsule. It untangles those chains of hyaluronic acid, and it thins out the synovial fluid. So by the time you actually stand up, the mechanical resistance within the joint is vastly reduced.
Okay, hold on. A hot towel flush sounds incredibly luxurious, but thinking about the logistics here.
It's a valid concern.
If the whole point is to avoid weight bearing on cold joints, how am I getting to the bathroom to soak a towel at 6 a.m.? Unless someone has, a butler standing by with hot towels, getting up to prep the heat source totally defeats the purpose of the protocol.
Oh, it's a major logistical hurdle. I agree.
Right.
The first protocol is ideal if you have a partner who wakes up earlier and can bring it to you, or if you, use an electric bedside heating pad.
Oh, a heating pad is a great workaround.
Yeah, but if external heat just isn't feasible for you, you have to trick your body into becoming its own internal thermal reactor.
Okay, tell me more.
That brings us to the second protocol, which is the endogenous heat generator routine.
How do we trigger an internal thermal reactor while we're still sitting in bed?
So you sit on the edge of the mattress with your feet dangling, and you perform continuous low-impact isometric muscle contractions and joint circles for about 5 minutes.
Okay, so what kind of movements?
You roll your ankles in slow, wide arcs. You bend and straighten your knees, flexing the quadriceps and hamstrings, but without actually putting your feet on the floor.
Right.
Or you do large, slow arm circles.
So you are moving the joint to engage the tissue, but you aren't putting any actual body weight or compressive load on the cartilage yet.
Precisely. Because there's no heavy compressive load, there is basically zero risk of grinding the dry cartilage.
That's brilliant.
And the thermal mechanism here relies entirely on the muscles. As you perform these unweighted movements, your muscle fibers are physically sliding against one another.
And that generates heat.
A massive amount of metabolic heat from the inside out. You're basically using your skeletal muscles as a biological furnace to warm up the surrounding vascular network.
Which in turn preheats the synovial fluid.
Exactly.
It's like warming up the car by letting it idle gently in the driveway instead of plugging in an external heater.
That's a perfect way to look at it.
I could definitely see myself doing ankle circles and knee extensions on the edge of the bed.
Yeah.
It takes zero equipment, zero preparation, and it completely sidesteps the logistics of fetching a hot towel.
It's very practical,
Yeah.
but the final protocol actually shifts the timeline completely. It focuses on proactive biohacking rather than, reactive morning triage.
Right. Protocol 3 is evening thermal preconditioning.
Yes.
It essentially argues that biohacking tomorrow morning's mobility actually starts tonight. The protocol suggests that 90 minutes before you intend to sleep, you take a 15-minute deeply warm bath or shower.
Right. And there is some really cool science behind why this works.
Yeah, what is the physiological advantage of doing a heat flush right before we're about to be immobilized for 8 hours? Won't it just cool down anyway?
Well, the evening heat exposure accomplishes 2 really profound shifts. First, the sustained heat interacts with your central nervous system.
Okay.
It shifts it away from the stressed, high cortisol sympathetic state of the daytime and locks it into a relaxed parasympathetic state.
Oh, the rest and digest state.
Right, which is an absolute requirement for the brain to initiate optimal deep sleep architecture and tissue repair.
That makes sense.
But mechanically, the hot water actually hyperperfuses your entire fascial web, your tendons, and your joint capsules with warm, nutrient-dense blood.
So you're basically artificially raising the baseline viscosity of the joint fluid right before that overnight thermoregulation drop happens.
Yeah. You're saturating the joint tissues with resources before the prolonged immobility of sleep even begins.
Wow.
And by doing that, you drastically slow down the rate at which the synovial fluid thickens overnight. Plus, the heat, ironically, helps your body dump its core temperature faster once you get out of the shower.
Because the blood comes to the surface of the skin, right?
Exactly, which actually accelerates the onset of deep sleep.
So when you wake up the next morning, the fluid just hasn't degraded entirely into that thick sludge yet.
Right, it's still relatively viable. Your baseline mobility is fundamentally improved because you went into the immobilization period with a surplus of heat and circulation.
It's amazing how responsive the structural framework of the human body really is to these inputs.
It really is.
I mean, when we talk about our skeleton, I think the immediate mental image for most of us is usually, a stagnant, dusty set of bones hanging in a high school science classroom.
Right, just dead, rigid scaffolding.
Exactly. But the sources actually use a really specific clinical vocabulary to describe this, don't they?
Yeah.
To show that it's the exact opposite of that.
They do. They emphasize that the joint isn't just a hinge, it's a highly adaptable ecosystem. And it relies entirely on flow-like, the continuous unidirectional movement of liquids.
And that flow is crucial to bring in oxygen.
Exactly. Oxygen is the life-sustaining element here. And the way we trigger that flow is to flex, to actively decrease the angle of the bones through muscle contraction.
So you flex to create flow, which delivers oxygen to the skeleton.
Perfectly said. The human body is not a fragile piece of glass that's just destined to shatter and stiffen as time goes on.
No, it's a dynamic machine.
And the overarching truth from all these clinical notes is that stiffness is not a life sentence. It's not inevitable degradation.
Right.
It is merely a physiological feedback signal.
That's such a comforting way to look at it.
Yeah, your body is just communicating the current state of its local environment. When a joint is stiff, it is requesting warmth. It's requesting targeted circulation. It's requesting intelligent low-load movement to basically re-engage that cellular sponge pump.
It's the engine light coming on, requesting that we warm up the oil before we push the RPMs.
Exactly. And by understanding the mechanics of vasoconstriction and applying these specific thermal protocols, whether it's the waking flush, the internal heat generator on the edge of the bed, or the evening preconditioning, you can actively melt away that mechanical resistance.
You can actually take control.
You restore the flow of vital nutrients and you reclaim fluid, frictionless mobility, regardless of your age or your training volume.
That is just phenomenal. So as we wrap up this deep dive, I really want you to apply this directly to your own routine.
Think about your own mornings.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Which joint in your body gives you the most trouble when you roll out of bed? Is it a tight lower back, creaky knees, maybe a sticky shoulder?
We all have one.
We do. So identify the culprit, and I challenge you to test just one of these thermal protocols.
Just pick one.
Right. Try the 15-minute evening preconditioning tonight, or sit on the edge of the bed and act as your own internal heat generator for 5 minutes tomorrow morning.
Test the hypothesis on your own tissues. Observe the physical difference between forcing cold sludge to bear your body weight versus gliding on pre-warmed oil.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And as you go about your day, I want to leave you with a final, slightly provocative thought to mull over.
Ooh, all right.
We've just spent this time proving that our joints act like complex living ecosystems that respond profoundly to simple thermal changes and targeted mechanical loading.
Right.
We learned that prescribing static, quote-unquote, rest and immobilization for morning stiffness actually starves the joint, shuts down the nutrient pump, and makes the whole problem worse.
Completely exacerbates it.
So it makes you wonder, what other common physical ailments, aches, or injuries have we been incorrectly treating with complete rest and stillness when what they actually desperately need to heal is targeted activity, warmth, and flow?
That's a great question.
If we've been entirely wrong about the honey in the refrigerator, what else are we freezing that actually needs to be melted?